Before we jump into today's show, I've got a really exciting announcement to make. The autumn cohorts for Start Your Podcast group program are now open. There are 5 dates between September and October, and it's a 6-week program that will get you launched before Christmas. So if podcasting was on your to-do list this year, if you really want to get your podcast up and done by the end of 2023, then come and join me for one of those cohorts and let's make it happen. I have a free masterclass available for you called Understanding the Power of Podcasting. You can go over to donnaeade.com/masterclass, watch the masterclass and get access to that enrollment. I hope to see you in one of the autumn cohorts very soon. That's donnaeade.com/masterclass. Let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name is Donna and I am your host. Today we have the lovely Victoria Bell from Victoria Bell Nutrition on the show to talk all about how we can use food to help keep our minds healthy. So if you have not yet done it, please do consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving us a review. And if you haven't listened to the other episodes in our self-care mini-series, then do head over to the website at www.spwv.co.uk where you can hear the rest of them. Let's jump into today's episode. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to this. Welcome back to the podcast. This is part 4 in our self-care series. And today we have the lovely Victoria Bell from Victoria Bell Nutrition. Welcome, Victoria. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah, it's fun to be here.
Okay, so today we are actually going to be looking at our nutrition, funnily enough. So we talked to Catherine about our exercise and how movement can help us get our mindset. We listened to Sarah last week talk about how our breathing and how our sort of meditative state can help us work with our mental health a little bit better. And today we are going to be talking all about food. Now, I am a big foodie and I've just been on a meeting where they were talking all about cake. So I'm now starving hungry for cake. But that aside, I actually thought of Victoria when I was thinking about this self-care series because I have got a book called Foods That Harm and Foods That Heal. And I thought, do you know what? That's so true. You know, we think, oh, when you're sad, I'm going to eat the chocolate, I'm going to eat the ice cream. It makes me feel better. But actually, it really doesn't make you feel any better. And I know that if I have a really nice hearty salad, couscous and vegetables and stuff, I feel so much better after it. I feel really good about myself as well, like I've done something good. So looking at food as fuel rather than just something that we do when we're bored or stressed, I thought was a good thing to do, and it will help us feel better. So as I just alluded to, a lot of the times we will eat because we are bored, we will eat because we're stressed, we'll eat because we're going out on a social event and we're having dinner out, and we will just eat what's put in front of us. And a lot of the times I think we're not actually listening to our own hunger signals, and rather than listening to our bodies for what they want for food, we're just eating because it's there. So the first question I have for you, Victoria, is how can we avoid this kind of, you know, just eating because it's there and we're at home and the fridge is just 2 steps away, and it's really easy when we're stressed to just go and grab something out of the kitchen. Have you got any tips for us?
Yes, absolutely. So just touching on stress, when we experience stress or the kind of the feeling of stress, it's a call to action from our bodies that we need to make some changes and that there's things going on around us that, you know, the body's not too happy with. So food can obviously be one of those triggers, but there's lots of other things that we're doing in our lives that aren't really supporting us to feel more relaxed. There's quite a few things that you can do just to kind of slow things down a little bit and really pay attention to what your body needs. So I'm probably going to overlap a bit with what Catherine and Sarah actually talked about, because a lot of it's not actually about food, it's about what we're doing with our bodies and our emotions and so on. So breath work is really good. So you can actually practice breath work in sessions, or you can just do a minute or 2 at a time. If you can feel that your anxiety is rising, just kind of stopping to really pay attention to your breathing is really going to help to just put you back into that relaxed state. And there are lots of different types of breathing. Also, how well we sleep. So if we are not sleeping enough, we are going to crave more of the carbohydrates and the sort of really high energy foods, and our appetite isn't as well controlled, so we will feel hungrier, we want to snack and graze. So just taking some steps to introduce a more regular bedtime routine, maybe doing something relaxing before you go to bed, so that you're more likely to fall asleep more easily. And I know that there are probably people listening that might to a degree be an insomniac or have some kind of insomnia. So I'm not saying it's as easy as just kind of, just change
laying on your pillow
and you'll sleep, but just being conscious of all the little things you could do to start to put yourself in a more restful state for when you go to bed. And even if you don't go to sleep, just trying to practice the breathing and so on will help just in general. And then making sure we're hydrated. So quite often when we're really stressed, we're not drinking enough. And as you can imagine, I'm going to say more water. Less fizzy drinks and so on, and ideally keeping the caffeine down, because that can really put us in a more stressed out state as well. So if you really love your coffee or your tea, I'm not saying cut it out altogether. You can get good decaf versions, or just keep it to 1 in the morning or something along those lines. And if you're drinking quite a few, then just gradually cut back one at a time over a few weeks. Planning some breaks in. So if you're super busy rushing around all day, every day, and you're not getting some kind of relaxation or just time out, if you've got family to look after, you do need to look after yourself. And sometimes when we've got a lot happening in our home, and we can feel a bit hemmed in, and what we sometimes need to do is either just kind of in a gentle way leave the situation for a while, whether that's go for a walk or just take ourselves out and have a break. But there are lots of ways you can do that without it resulting in you kind of slamming the door and walking out, but just communicating with family and saying, I'm going to start taking some time out for myself, and all I need is half an hour or whatever it might be, so people understand that that's important for you to look after yourself. Alcohol as well. So alcohol can have a knock-on effect with how we feel the following day, or even a couple of days later. If we're drinking a lot, it can affect our whole weekend. And so that will make us more prone to anxiety and stress, and also feeling really low as well. It can really mess with our neurotransmitters. So just making sure we're not drinking too many days of the week, and also moderating how much we're drinking each time, so we're not having so much. That can really help. And then one thing I recommend to people that are possibly struggling with anxiety, I would recommend a good quality B complex supplement, and possibly magnesium, because we can get B vitamins and magnesium from a good balanced diet. And some of us aren't necessarily managing to get enough in our food, depending on what our diet is like. But people that are under a lot of stress or are exhausted generally have a higher requirement for those nutrients, B vitamins and magnesium. So I would say if you're really struggling, then it's worth a try. But ask, like a manager in the health shop, or get some reviews so that you know that the product that you're getting is a good quality one and it suits your needs. Because magnesium can cause, like diarrhea if people go too heavy on it all of a sudden. So that's what I'd recommend. But also, finally, exercise. So obviously Catherine was talking about exercise the other day, and it doesn't have to be anything really strenuous, although sometimes that can benefit us. But for kind of stress relief, definitely any movement is going to help.
Brilliant. So for me, I mean, those are some fantastic tips there, because although we're not talking about food in those answers, what we're doing is giving you things that you can do that are going to prevent you getting to that food. So drinking more water is going to help you feel fuller and is going to not trigger those hunger responses so quickly. Sleep, like you were saying, that's such a fantastic thing that I think people don't even realize that actually, if you don't get enough sleep, your body's going to be craving more fuel, because it's like trying to struggle on that less sleep. So I'm trying to use a car analogy, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But yeah, it's like sleep is so important. So even if you can sort of pretend you are your 5-year-old children and, you know, put yourself to bed at a decent time, it's something I definitely need to start doing because I've had far too many late nights recently. So the water and the sleep, absolutely brilliant tips there. And yeah, Sarah did go over some box breathing with us last week, so that'll be fantastic. And just instantly, if you think, oh, I'm done with this, and you get up and you walk away and you go to touch that fridge handle, stop for a second and breathe and think,
Yes.
you know, why am I doing this? Is this because I just stormed out of my office, or is it because I'm actually hungry? And just that element of stopping and thinking about it before you open that door is going to help you make sure that you're eating because you need to eat and not eating because you're stressed, because there are other things we can do, like go for a walk, which is something we spoke about with Catherine.
Yeah.
So that's awesome stuff.
And one of my quickest tips, if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to just go and pour yourself a glass of water and have some really slow sips of it, and then just think about your breathing and so on. And that, you know, sometimes when your anxiety is really high, actually when you do that, you just think, oh yes, I really needed a drink. And that's just such a simple thing. It's almost free, and we've all got access to a tap at home. And finally, I was going to say about also using journaling potentially to explore what is triggering you, and if there's anything that you need to deal with, and you may not be ready to deal with it right now, but at some point there will be a time when it feels right to address things that may be in the current time, or they may be in the past. But often when we're eating because of emotions, we're obviously kind of stuffing them down and they want to come out, and it's not always convenient for them to come out.
It's good to explore it through journaling, because otherwise they might come out in other ways where you really don't want them to come out. So yeah, like I've been finding recently, obviously we're all quite closed in at the moment. I thought I'm not going to be absolutely fine with this because I'm a homebody anyway. I love being at home. It is my happy place. But I've just noticed recently that my fuse is starting to get really short with people that I absolutely adore and love, and things that normally would not trigger me at all have started to trigger me. And I was just like, it's because we're 24/7 together, and it's been that way for 7 months now. So it is that need to just get out of the house and have a break and breathe. So yeah, absolutely, journaling would be a fantastic option as well. So now we've looked at how we can sort of avoid reaching for the fridge due to our emotions that are quite high at the moment. If we are hungry, what are the kind of foods that we should be looking at eating that are going to give us a boost of energy, or, you know, sort of boost our mental health and make us feel better, rather than, you know, the chocolate and ice cream, which tastes really good at the time, but, you know, then sit on my hips and make me feel bad.
Well, there's a few main things you can do. So I'm not sure if you've heard of an amino acid called tryptophan.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
So we use basically a building block for protein, and we use this building block called tryptophan to produce our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, and also melatonin, which helps us to sleep. So we need lots of tryptophan in our diets, and actually a lot of the foods that it is in are quite yummy. So if you eat animal foods, your best sources are chicken and turkey and fish. So a lot of us tend to have some kind of animal protein with our dinner, and, you know, some people are trying to cut down on that, but it's good to know that actually if you're having a piece of fish or some chicken or something, that it is actually contributing to your ability to sleep properly and to be happy.
Brilliant.
So also with vegetarian foods, so nuts are an excellent source. Nut butter, which is something you can have on pretty much anything. So peanut butter, almond butter.
Love peanut butter. It's my favourite. I have it nearly every day.
Yeah, it's actually, as long as you get a good quality one, it's really, really good.
I use the Whole Foods one.
Yeah,
like
I love that one.
97% peanuts and a little bit of oil.
Yeah, it's really good. Apologies to anybody with nut allergies, but they are they are for sure one of the best things to do for yourself that will have quite a quick effect. So cherries, and the ones that, because there are lots of different types of cherries, the ones that are really going to help with sleep are Montmorency cherries, but they're not that easy to get hold of. So actually just having some fresh cherries occasionally is a good thing. Strawberries as well, and dairy, soy, so tofu and so on, and oats as well, and bananas. So lots of different things to choose from.
Yeah.
So I would have those in the late afternoon, evening to help with sleep. And also keeping hydrated, again, so lots of fluids. Green tea, so green tea has another amino acid in it called theanine, or theanine some people call it, and this one helps with a brain chemical that helps us feel relaxed. So we have these brain chemical, well, they're neurotransmitters, and one of them is called GABA, and that kind of helps us to slow things down, because you've got some brain neurotransmitters that kind of help you be energetic and can make you anxious if they're too busy, but GABA helps to calm that down. So 1, 2, 3 cups of green tea if you like it. Not everybody does.
No, thank you. That's one that's not for me. I'll have more peanut butter instead.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and that's fair enough. You know, we're all completely different. We've got different taste buds as well. So
but they do have green teas that have got different flavour, so the green tea and something else. Does that work in the same way? So if we had one of the herbal green teas with the pomegranate or whatever it is that the others, does that have the same effect?
Yeah, it does. I would say the ones that you get in the tea bags, which are more likely to have the flavours added, aren't as potent as if you got the loose green tea, but you could add flavours to those.
I was going to say, you could do your own though, couldn't you? The green tea and then squeeze a lemon or a bit of honey or something.
Yeah, and there's so many different flavours that can pair up nicely with it. So you can have some fun experimenting and make it into an afternoon ritual or something. Eating the rainbow, so lots of antioxidant rich fruits and vegetables, is going to help, and just trying to almost set yourself a little challenge to try different things and see how many different colours you can get into your day. And good news, not good news for everybody, but very dark chocolate is, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you are worried about not having any chocolate, if you can kind of gently push yourselves up slightly with the cocoa content, the higher the better, because that has some really good polyphenols in that are really, well, they're also antioxidants, and it also gives you this feeling of well-being. And one of my quick snacks, which involves our lovely nut butter again, is dates with nut butter. So this is something that takes a minute to prepare, and especially if you've got a sweet tooth and you're trying not to have evening treats or even just in the afternoon, you can get a couple of dates and just take the pit out and then add nut butter in, and it's really delicious. People with diabetes would have to make the judgment depending on how they're managing their diabetes, but dates are really high in fibre and lots of really good nutrients, so actually, and magnesium again, so if you're able to have them, they're quite a good treat.
Nice. I like the sound of that. I might have to give that a go. Awesome. So now we've got some, and I love that idea of eating the rainbow, by the way. I definitely need to get that. I love bell peppers because they look like a rainbow when they come in their pack of 4 and stuff. So yes, I shall eat the rainbow from now on. So now we're staying away from the fridge when we're stressed, and we've got some foods that we can eat that are going to help make us feel better. Have you got three little things that sort of pulling from all of that stuff that we can do that, you know, are nice and easy, that we can integrate, that's actually going to have an impact on our health? So if we just start with these 3 things, and maybe we can build in all these other things that you've been talking about.
Absolutely. So this is the way I work with my clients as well, because I know some people can really attack diet plan and hit the ground running, but most of us, that's not really sustainable. So actually just trying one thing and just getting used to that thing, and then trying something else, that's actually a really good way of making lasting habit changes that we can keep for life. And then that becomes the new normal. So the first one is to start with an extra portion of fruit or vegetables. Not everybody has a lot of fruits and vegetables in their diet, and the typical lunch foods that you would get, especially on the go, even if you take like a BLT sandwich or something, really you're getting half a leaf of lettuce or something, and a slice of tomato. So it's not really going to up your quota for the day very much. So I would say start with adding an extra one to your dinner, say, or having a fruit snack instead of a biscuit snack, and over time then challenge yourself to add another one. And ideally you would be building up to having about 7 portions a day, and a portion is about the size of your closed fist. So when you're thinking about if you're getting your 5 a day, actually if it's just a handful of grapes, that's not really a full portion. You're and I'm not saying eat big fistfuls of grapes either, but just thinking about greens and so on, or broccoli, that's a portion, not one floret. So yeah, just slowly getting yourself used to having more, and eventually the goal is to be filling half your plate with vegetables.
I was going to say, actually, we tried, like, when my other half does most of the cooking in our house, and he'll say to me, how much peas should I be cooking? And I'll say, well, a portion is a cup, so he'll get the cup measure out. And actually, because we have the petit pois as well, 3 cups in there, it's like, there's loads. It's so much pea. And I'm like, there's too much. I can't eat that. And actually, if you are eating the right level of vegetables, I can see just from putting peas on my dinner plate to the cup's worth of peas that there's not enough room for the potatoes and great big chunks of meat. So probably I should be focusing on letting him keep the peas and cutting down on the other things on our plate instead. Absolutely loads of peas.
Yeah, that is quite a lot. I get told off for making too much because I love them in my house, but not everybody else is such a big fan. So yeah, so a fist, but then that could be half peas, half sweet corn, or whatever. And going for varieties. If you normally have 1 vegetable with your dinner, having 2, and then building up, so you're having 3 or 4. But it doesn't have to be 4 fistfuls. It can just be,
yeah.
Mixture.
And you get the country mixes as well. So don't think that you've got to go and buy all of these different fresh vegetables and everything else, because you can get frozen bags of mixed veg. Just putting it out there.
No, I completely agree, actually, because up in your vegetables and your fruits, it is quite expensive as you start to eat more and more. And my kids go through tons of fruit, and they're big fans of cucumbers especially, but frozen is just as good. So the benefit of frozen obviously is partly that you don't tend to waste so much, and it keeps, so you won't end up with loads of spoilage in your fridge. And it is just as nutritious. So it is a really good option. Tinned is still good. I would always favour frozen over tinned. But yeah, you don't have to do everything fresh. So that is a really good point. And the second change, if people aren't doing this already, because some people are, meal planning really helps with making sure you're getting the right kinds of meals. So thinking about, if you have children, what they're having for lunch at school, and any events in the evening, or clubs or anything you've got to do, or even as adults, meetings, and if people want to do their exercise session or whatever it might be, and then just kind of working backwards and thinking, well, if I'm going to make sure that we're actually going to have a balanced meal on that day when I've got a 7:30 session, a meeting or gym or whatever, I'm going to have this quick ready to cook thing that is easy to do. Because what happens is, if we don't plan, we can end up kind of relying on takeaways, or actually buying things that just go in the oven without any prep because we feel like we don't have time. But actually, if we've planned it out, we can maybe do some batch cooking at the weekend, or double up when we cook, so we've got half again that can then be a meal in 2-3 days time, or go in the freezer.
That's such a good tip, Victoria. I just have to say that meal planning is a big thing for me. I actually went off on a friend's post the other day. She was posting about using up her stuff in her fridge, and I just put that somebody asked for other tips, and I was like, planning, and I just put this huge paragraph. I thought, oh dear, I've just gone and stolen her thread. But I plan, and it's something that I've done for about a year now. And we used to get these HelloFresh boxes, and this is not sponsored ad anybody, but we used to get HelloFresh, and they came with just the right amount of stuff. So because we were wasting so much, but came with all these great recipes, and we built up this sort of stock of recipes that were nice and easy, quick and simple. And we've just got a month's worth. I plan a month's worth, and I know possibly you might want to start with a week, but for me, when I was planning weekly, I was like having spag bowl Mondays and, beans on toast on Tuesdays. I was having the same meals every week. But planning for the whole month, I've managed to sort of put all of these recipes on there. We have 2 days a week, which are feed yourself days, which just gives us a bit of flexibility. So if we are going out for dinner, we'll just move a meal across, or my other half goes to his parents on Wednesday and I don't feel like cooking, so I might have beans on toast. And it's reduced our waste immensely, and we don't have to think about it. It's just like, that's what's being cooked tonight. You don't have to think about it. So I think anything that can reduce your sort of stress and worry around food is really, really useful. And I totally advocate planning your meals. Brilliant
Absolutely.
tip.
And I would say do it when your energy is in a good place. So if you tend to be really tired in the afternoons or evenings, probably not the best time to do your planning, because you're going to be too tired to really think it through. And also scheduling in time, like you were saying about the HelloFresh, and again, no sponsorship, but scheduling in time to try new recipes. So finding some healthy recipe sites, and even BBC Good Food, again, no sponsorship, but they have some really good healthy recipes. So a lot of them are quite easy and fairly quick. So scheduling that in that so you don't feel rushed, and you know that it's going to take a little bit longer than when you've had a few goes at making the same thing. And just getting excited about eating again, because we've been cooking for ourselves for months and it can get a bit samey.
And don't fear repeating your meals, guys. So if you're thinking, oh my God, I can't plan a whole month out, just plan what you would normally eat. And then you can, each month, you just change a couple of meals in it, change it to something else, and start building up a better meal plan. Don't feel like, oh, I've got to do this absolutely wonderful meal plan that includes all of this fresh fruit and vegetables, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to do that. Just write down what you eat now. What is your normal week like? Write that down as a plan. And then at least it's something that you've got sorted, and then you can make incremental changes over time. Like Victoria was saying, that the small changes are the ones that stick. So don't feel overwhelmed by planning.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everybody loves cooking, and that's understandable. We've all got different interests. So even if it's just planning to try one new meal a week and starting there, and then hopefully, if that goes well, you start to get more motivated to try different things. It can be a bit of a thankless task, especially if you live with people that are quite fussy, or you've got lots of different tastes and needs in your house. So I understand that sometimes you need to give yourself a pat on the back, because not everybody's as kind of excited about your really nice healthy meal as you are. But yeah, just one at a time is perfect. And then the final small change would be thinking about protein. So with every meal, and ideally most snacks, if you think about where your protein is, that can help you to stay full for longer. And as I said earlier on about the tryptophan rich foods, the protein foods are really good for your mental well-being, and giving you good amounts of serotonin and melatonin. And it also helps you have less cravings. So if you have a really good quality protein in your meals, you're less likely to be grazing. And if you then have a protein-based snack, actually it's much better to have that than not, and then end up hungry when you then eat your dinner. So sometimes we go long gaps between meals, and we end up so hungry that we then stuff ourselves silly. So actually having a good quality protein snack can help moderate our appetite. It also helps us sleep and gives us better energy. So the sorts of things I would recommend, again, for people that do eat animal products, so good quality meat and fish, eggs, dairy, although dairy obviously is, kind of a good source of carbohydrates and fats as well, so it's not going to give you a massive dose of protein, but sometimes some halloumi or some feta or something or cottage cheese has a better amount of protein than some of the other types of dairy. But then for vegetarians, so you've got soy products, tofu, soybeans, and then any kind of bean and pulses, lentils. And if you're in a rush and sometimes you don't really have time to sit down and eat a meal, sometimes making yourself a really good smoothie with some protein powder, greens, maybe some fruit. And sometimes that can really help if you don't have time to sit down and have a good meal, and still make sure that you're getting some nutrients in and even some fluids as well. So those things all would help to then stabilize your appetite and give you all the different amino acids that you need. And also with protein, you can get protein bars. Some of them have quite a lot of sugar in as well. So if you just look for ones that have ideally 12 or 10 grams or less sugar and as natural as possible. So if it's organic raw sugar or something, or coconut sugar or added dates, added maple syrup, that's better than having your typical refined sugar. Lots of different things to try.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually fantastic. I'm so excited to start changing up my meal plan, because that's my next thing. Is like, we've got it's solid, but I know there are some areas where we could probably have a few better choices. So I will be listening back to this and seeing what I can add into my diet. So thank you so much for all that information, Victoria. Really appreciate it. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how you work and how people can find you, so that they can come and see what you do on the Facebook and things like that?
Yes, thank you. I work online at the moment. So although I'm based in Hertfordshire, I have 3 clinics in Hertfordshire, and hopefully, most likely next year, I'll be starting to open up the clinics again. And those are in St Albans, Croxley Green and Watford. But right now I'm seeing lots of clients online through Zoom. And I mostly work with women, but I do have male clients and child clients as well. But I especially like helping women to get their energy back, especially if they're busy, self-employed or professionals. And what tends to happen, especially as we approach our 40s and then go into our 50s, is that our hormones change. So often it hits us like a sledgehammer. We don't really know what's going on with our body. There's not a lot of information out there, unless you really look for it, about what is happening to your body and how to help yourself. So I love helping women who have suddenly realised that they can't deal with the same foods that they've been used to all their lives, or suddenly they can't tolerate alcohol anymore and they're having all these weird reactions to things, might have more anxiety and hot flushes, or, just funny things going on with their body. So I help my clients by firstly looking at what has triggered their symptoms of ill health, or even if it's just not having enough energy, because that in itself can be a showstopper if you need to be keeping busy and you need to think clearly. So we do look at women's entire health history, as well as looking at the diet. We're looking at lifestyle and basically giving my clients a 360 view. So it's never just about the food, it's about the whole mind, body, spirit, and so on. And I normally work with ladies for about 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. And they always come out feeling amazing. And often they're not trying to lose weight, but they just find that some of it drops off because they've just made little gentle changes. And this mostly desired knock-on effect is that, weight that they've kind of been carrying for a long time just starts to kind of come back off. Yes, and I also do some talks. So I do free talks for workplaces, and that's with Talks for Teams. And we're just starting to get ready to relaunch, and there's a team of us that all are offering a variety of different talks for employees. And if anybody wants to get in touch, my website is www.victoriabellnutrition.co.uk. So it's my name, and nutrition is fairly easy to remember. But I do offer free mini consultations, so if anybody's ever curious, there's no obligation. You can have a call and ask as many questions as you like, and get some plans to move forward with whatever's going on with you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So I will link all of that in the show notes for you guys, so you can get instant access to Victoria, which is no bad thing in my book. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Victoria. It has been an absolute pleasure. Sorry for the abrupt ending to that podcast, ladies and gentlemen. There was something very noisy going on outside my house and I had to edit it there, unfortunately. However, I'm really glad to be able to come back on to the end of the podcast and just say a massive thank you to the 3 ladies that came on to help me with the self-care mini-series. That was Catherine Chapman, Saira Hassan and Victoria Bell. It was an absolute pleasure and honour to have all 3 ladies on the podcast over the last month, and I hope that it has helped. They have really given us some great tips on how to make sure that our mental well-being is taken care of in this crazy time that we're living through. If you have enjoyed any of the episodes so far, please do consider subscribing where you listen to your podcasts and leaving us a review. It really helps us to reach a wider audience, and that is the aim of the game with the podcast. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.